All right, everybody. All right, all right. Yeah, we got to 9. We got to 9. We got to 9. We're at 9. It's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. All right, hold on, hold on. Let me send. I just recorded the chapter review, so let me send that shit to my editor. All right. All right. I really got to tighten up this shit. I can't afford any more points. I can't afford any more points. For fun, I think this command should work now. First of all, let me test if the old command works. Does this command work? Do I have to do mod Streamlabs first? Mod Streamlabs. Oops. What is it? This should work. I think we were able to set up a points command. Also, everybody, let's get the let's get the likes up to 100 real quick. Okay, so that works. So let me check if we can do the points command. Hold on. Let's see. Okay, I'm just gonna try it. I'm reading out instructions. Let's see if this works. Does it work? I don't know if it... Yeah, okay. So, if you can... yeah, so you should be able to... I don't know which one of those it is. But for one of those... I think that's too much text that pops up. I think this might be too much text that pops up. This might be too much text. Maybe we don't do this. So if I do that again, will it stop that? We might have fucked up. We might have to remove that penalty. All right, here. Let me screen share for you guys, so you guys can watch me increase the penalties. Here we go. All right, 140. Yeah. Oh, did it not? Did it? What the heck? Oh, it's screen shares the wrong screen. What the fuck? Okay, that's new. It shouldn't do that. Anyway, I increased the point total. It's at 140 now. All right, the point total is increased to 140. Just trust. You will see it's at 140 next stream. I don't know why it's doing that. It should just. What the fuck? All right, we'll deal with that later. I don't have the tech skill bandwidth to deal with that right now. It's 9 points added. All right. Anyway, continuing on. We just need 10 more points. God damn it. All right. Anyway. All right, everybody. Let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick. We're supposed to just trust you. It's at 140. You guys can remember that, right? It's at 140. You know, all of this is like documented evidence, right? You can just check what the thing is here. Okay, I can move it. Here. You could just check what it was last stream and compare it to this stream. Look. Should show that. You see 140? I changed to 140. There we go. All right, everybody. Continuing on. So, we just had a really fucking good chapter. A really, really good chapter. Let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick. I am curious, number one, about what a Kirin does. So Kirin, Mythical Zone. I got a lot of so let me tell you guys my thoughts from this chapter. One, I don't think we got that much clarification on how strong Skopper Gaban is. We just know he's strong. Like, very, very strong. I don't think we got that much. I think Oda did his classic Oda thing of, like, give a character a good showing without establishing too much. You know what I mean? Like there's still room for, like, Skopper could be... We don't know. It's hard to say. Oda didn't even confirm whether or not he's using Advanced Conqueror's Haki or not. My feeling is that one... So nobody take this the wrong way. I think Skopper could have Advanced Conqueror's Haki. I don't think this chapter was a display of him using Advanced Conqueror's Haki, personally. That's my take at the moment. I think he could have it, though. So we kind of just got to wait and see. I think also This is my biggest theory coming out of this chapter. I think that Shamrock is being sent back to Morj to be promoted to his father's position. Because what just happened is essentially Garling is being promoted from Supreme Commander of the Gods Knights to the Gorsei, right? So that's what's happening, number one, leaving a vacancy. So now there's a vacancy. So now his son's being promoted to his position. I think that's basically what's happening here. Essentially, for us, it feels like, oh, Garling was promoted so long ago. But in story time, Garling was literally just promoted, like yesterday. And Shamrock was out doing missions and stuff. So Garling was promoted to his new position. And now with Garling being promoted to his new position, they're calling back Shamrock to promote him to Garling's position. I think that's my guess as to what's happening right here. What do you guys think about that? Behenort, thanks a lot. The contrast between Gods Knights and Gorsei is interesting. They're lower and upper halves of Imu's crew, but the upper half, the Gorsei, is unlike any other faction commanders Oda has written so far. I view it as like, I think that okay, so here's what I view it as. All right, let me screen share some stuff. Still don't know why this is not screen sharing the right page, but we can do what we can do. I think that no, I'm not going to bother. I guess I could do a little bit of a drawing. I could do a bit of a drawing. I view it as basically nah, I'm not going to do a pain. It's too much of a pain in the ass. Okay. I think that there's just going to be a lot of, how to explain? I think that the Gods Knights are going to be, in general, a sort of matchup for the revolutionaries, first and foremost. And then I think that the Gorsei are going to be a matchup for more significant characters. So I wouldn't view it as like a traditional crew in that sense. The Celestial Dragons are being set up in a way that's very, very elaborate because it is the ultimate. Whether or not you think Blackbeard or Emu's the final villain, at the end of the day, what the larger alliance will have to be taking on Emu first and foremost, and then if Blackbeard swoops in afterwards, that's its own thing, right? But taking down the Celestial Dragons is going to be what the big like coalition that's going to emerge is going to have to do, right? So it's not a traditional. I would view it almost like this, which is that Emu kind of has like his priests, like Enel, but then at the same time, there's also this whole crew that exists, which is the Gods Knights, right? And then on top of that, I think you could say that the Seraphim add their own wrench in the works to the whole thing. So it's going to be stacked in a manner that we've never really had before. I think it's fairly different. I think it's fairly different. And then on top of that, the biggest thing that I think that they're losing with losing the Marines is foot soldiers, right? You're losing so many numbers. That is fixed with the Pacifista. The Pacifista essentially fixed that issue because heading into the final war, what it would essentially be is like the Celestial Dragon side is very top heavy. They've got Emu, right? They've got the 5 Gorsei, which are all admiral-ish level. They've got the Gods Knights, which should be comparable to a Yonko crew, probably total. They've got the Seraphim at full potential. God knows how strong they are, right? So it's a very stacked group, right? But then what are the armies generally going to be fighting? Because you need opponents for the foot soldiers. So in that regard, because Marines are not really going to be. If the Celestial Dragons are literally flooding the entire planet with the ancient weapons, then the Marines are just normal fucking people. They're going to get drowned there as well, right? So at the end of the day, the Celestial Dragons are just trying to save themselves. So at that point, they won't have the Marines on their side. The Marines will essentially be replaced with the foot soldiers that are the Pacifista, which are very, very effective foot soldiers, because a single Pacifista is equal to the pre-time skip Straw Hats. Actually, the modern-day Pacifistas are probably stronger than those, so it's kind of insane. Strongest foot soldiers in the story. Let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick. Ignorant Weed, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 17 months. Chapter confirms Zoro Luffy as best duo. Seeing Zoro in Gear 5 is surreal. We also get to see Luffy being angry in Gear 5. Yeah, we haven't really seen them be a duo with Luffy in Gear 5 just yet. We also get to see Luffy being angry in Gear 5. Yeah, as angry as Luffy kind of gets. Yeah, he was angry. Let me look at his expressions again. But yeah, no, he's smiling once he's in Gear 5. I don't think he doesn't really. It's the classic Gear 5 thing. He's smiling once he's in Gear 5. He's angry after they've crashed into the wall, but it's like gag anger. I still want to see Luffy angry in Gear 5. That has happened though. That has happened like towards the like in the climax of the Kaido fight a little bit, and for a brief moment after Vegapunk got stabbed. But yeah, I'll just go to say, Ignorant Weed, I agree. Chapter confirms Zoro and Luffy are best duo. If you were not here last stream, so you know this chapter, we got a classic Luffy Zoro moment, right? If you were not here last stream on Monday, there are genuinely One Piece fans out there who argued, not as a joke, maybe it was a joke, maybe it was to troll me, I don't know. There is a good portion of One Piece fans out there who legitimately argued that Luffy Jinbei is in the same tier of iconicness. Is that a word? Iconography? It's on the same tier in terms of being iconic as Luffy Zoro. Isn't that a fucking insane statement? Some of you are still here in this stream today. Luffy Jinbei, you guys think is on par, like in the same tier, right? Same tier, you guys think, as Luffy Zoro. Isn't that fucking insane? Like, Luffy Zoro is a classic. You put those two together and you know what you're going to get. You know the dynamic that's going to come out of there, right? You know what they're going to be like. Luffy Usopp, you put those two together, you know what you're going to get. It's going to be buddy, fun shit, right? Luffy Nami, you know what you're going to get. It's going to be a lot of Luffy being reckless, Nami reeling him in, beautiful clash of contrast of characters. What happens if you put Luffy and Jinbei together? What does that even go, like, if this was a Luffy Jinbei adventure, what the fuck does that even look like? There's no fucking dynamic there. It is so fucking insane to me that people are genuinely, like, you put Zoro, that's what an iconic duo is. You put Zoro and Sanji together in a room, you know what the dynamic is, right? Luffy and Jinbei have only ever had a dynamic when Luffy had no other fucking Straws around. That's the only time. Beyond that, there's no dynamic. But there's literally people out there, like, how could you read this chapter and think back to all of the millions of Luffy Zoro moments throughout the story, and all those classic scenes and classic badass battle entrances and moments and all of that stuff, and legitimately be like, oh, you know what? This is a lot like Luffy Jinbei. Imagine Luffy Jinbei charging into battle against Scopper Gaban. Same tier of level of iconicness. Same level. Pretty much the same thing. You could replace Zoro with Jinbei there, and you'd still be like, that's my duo. Luffy and Jinbei. Fucking classic Naruto Sasuke, Goku Vegeta level dynamic right there. Luffy Jinbei. The two who fucking talk like, what? Twice since fucking Fishman Island? I don't even fucking know. It's such an absurd argument. It's actually, it's genuinely, sometimes in streams I have some dictatorial tendencies, and I'm like, we're not putting this up for poll and stuff like that. But that alone there's moments that just justify why people in chat should not be allowed to just decide certain things when it's just off limit. It's just too absurd and too blasphemous to the story, to the greatness of the dynamic that Oda has written with certain characters like Luffy Zoro, Zoro Sanji, Luffy Nami, Luffy Usopp. There's a certain sanctity to dynamics that Oda has developed over thousands of chapters. And then to just be like, remember that one time that Luffy had no other fucking Strats, so he had to hang out with Jinbei for an arc? That's an icon. That's on the same tier as the rest of them. It's fucking insane. It's so, you guys literally, if you read this fucking chapter and you think Luffy Jinbei, same tier as Luffy Zoro, same tier. Look me in the eyes right now and tell me you think Luffy Jinbei is equal or not equal in the same tier of greatness and importance and specialness to the series as Luffy Zoro. Look me in the eyes and tell me that right now. If you read this chapter and that thought is in your brain, you need to drop the story. Drop the story. Leave the story forever. You got to read the whole thing again. Anyway, we're done. Continuing on. Mingo Mango, thanks for the 7. Your take on Zoro's strength being ambiguously between Luffy and Sanji is so accurate this arc. He's done duo attacks with both of them. W Morj take. Thank you. I do think that Oda makes it fairly ambiguous. I don't think Oda's got a set number. Like, you'll often see people like make comments or something like that. If Luffy's 100, then Zoro's like 85 and Sanji's 80. Or if Luffy's 100, then Zoro's like 95 and Sanji's like 70. Like, you'll see so many comments like that. I don't think Oda has those fucking numbers in mind. I think that it's just like, he sometimes writes Zoro, like, the reality is if you go throughout the story, he's pretty fluid with it. Like, it depends on what he wants to portray at the moment. Sometimes he will write Zoro as being portrayed alongside Luffy, let's say, without getting too technical with the words, and sometimes he'll portray Zoro being portrayed alongside Sanji. It's a nebulous sort of thing. I also don't think Sanji is that far off from Luffy now that's, well, it depends. I think that there's just gaps between the three of them, but Oda's flexible with how big the gaps are. I do think that there's points in the story. Like, if you read Dressrosa, you'd be like, okay, at this moment in time, there's a huge gap between Luffy and Sanji, and we don't really know where Zoro falls because Zoro hasn't gotten a challenge yet, right? But post Wano, it's like, okay, well, Zoro and Sanji fucking fucked up their opponents pretty badly, and Luffy barely scraped by against Kaido and really shouldn't have due to stamina issues, right? So the gaps right now are like ambiguous because Zoro and Sanji were just so far ahead of their opponents by the end of it. By the end of it, Ifrit, Janbei, Sanji, King of Hell, Zoro, so far ahead of King and Queen. And Luffy really wasn't equal to Kaido at the end due to stamina issues, right? Going all out in Gear 5th, yeah, but like, aside from that, not really. So I think it's just more of a, it's supposed to be ambiguous. All right. King J says, Jinbei is Luffy's Piccolo. He is Luffy's Tien. It is so disrespectful to call him Luffy's Piccolo. He is Luffy's Tien. He's nothing. He's nothing. He's not. I even saw somebody comment like, Jinbei's role is Luffy's advisor. What the fuck? Jinbei's role is Luffy's advisor? How the fuck did Luffy get through all of the fucking Grand Line without Jinbei, his so-called advisor? How many fucking scenes do you have to skip or speed read to come to the conclusion that Jinbei is Luffy's advisor in any shape or form? He advises Luffy in the scene where Luffy doesn't have any other Straw Hats, but that's like saying, well, remember that time that Sanji wasn't there, so Nami had to cook, like at the start of Whole Cake Island? Does that make Nami Luffy's cook now? No, she's just fucking cooking because nobody else is fucking there. The fuck does that mean? Zoro is Luffy's advisor, Nami is Luffy's advisor. You could argue in recent times, Robin has been the one to give exposition and advice to Luffy more than anything, right? Jinbei is not Luffy's fucking advisor. He spoke sense to Luffy in the only arc where there were no other Straw Hats. What the fuck? That's like saying, oh, I guess Jinbei's Luffy's first mate now because there's no fucking, because Zoro's not there. I guess Jinbei's the cook now because Sanji's not there. What the fuck? Fucking stupid as fuck. I don't even know. I don't even know what to say to that. All right, continuing on. Continuing on. Let's get the stream likes up to 100. Let's get the stream likes up to 100. Carnage, thanks for the 2. Do you think Harold was evil now? I think things are looking really messy for Harold. I am very confused. I think things are looking really messy for Harold. I'm very, very curious what went down there. Very, very curious what went down there. I'm gonna just save my thoughts because Oda does like to yank the reader back and forth at times, right? Like, when we first met Pudding, a lot of people thought that Pudding was secretly evil. That was a common theory. And then as the arc went on, it was like, no, Pudding's really fucking good. Then it was like, oh shit, Pudding's evil. And then by the end, it's like, no, she's good. She was just misunderstood and doing bad things or whatever. Let's get the stream likes up to 100. Aether, thanks to the 2. Super that Gabon just wanted to see Gear 5th before. Yeah, it's very possible that he just wanted to see that, I guess, to get confirmation. There was a comment from my Patreon Voice of the People from, who was it? Let me see. That was interesting. It was Florian Vendari saying that, he was testing also Luffy's resolve with questions about the hat, in that, it's possible that Gabon kind of wants to hear Luffy stepping into his role a bit more and not thinking of it as just like holding the hat for Shanks, but actually that he is the person that's supposed to have the hat and actually fulfill some things for the world. That's kind of an interesting possibility as well. The Lowman, thanks for the 5. I don't know if you've discussed this already, but it seems like Shamrock and the Holy Knights are planning to do another God's Valley Delbath, which is the game. Yeah, I think that, so that was something that people talked about towards the beginning of the arc. And at the time, I just found it hard to believe because at the time, it was just like, Elbaf is such a strong nation, right? It's easy to do a game at something like, God Valley, where it's just a normal island with normal people, but Elbaf is the mightiest nation. Can the God's Knights really just swoop in and do it to Elbaf like that? And it's like, well, with Harold dead and Loki tied up, I guess so, and Dorian Broggy being bums, I guess so. It's kind of crazy, though, because they know the Straw Hats are on that island, right? Do they know the Straw Hats are at that? Hey, can someone remind me? Is it confirmed that they know that the Straw Hats are on the island? Also, let's get the stream lights up to 100 real quick, because we're almost there. Do they know that the Straw Hats are on that island? Um, do they know the strats around that island? Bunfagum, thanks for the 7. If Shamrock becomes Supreme Commander, then Sommer seems like he'd become captain since he spoke with Shamrock on a first name basis. I do think that's very, very possible. I think Sommers is... So there's two ways that I think about it, okay? So, if the Gods Knights... One, the fact that Sommers is being called in, you know that they're about to try to corral the Elbaf Giants. They're trying to bully them in a way, right? So if Shamrock is leaving, then they have to have extreme confidence in these 3 Gods Knights that they will be able to control the nation of Elbaf, or at least bully them to some degree, right? So that adds all the more weight to the fact that Sommers and this Kirin dude were summoned. And Sommers seems to be the bigger deal. So I wouldn't be surprised if Sommers gets promoted to the next position. My other thought is that Captain is an interesting position if it's under, Supreme Commander. So could it be that there's 3 captains, kind of like a Yonko crew? So like imagine equivalent of Yonko, because the Gods Knights, it's 9 people, right? So imagine the Yonko figure, the leader is Supreme Commander, then 3 captains underneath them, kind of like Yonko tend to have 3 commanders, and then the rest, basically. So the rest being, 5 other characters, I guess. It's not even confirmed that there's only 9 Gods Knights. That's just the amount that we got to see in the silhouette. But I wonder if that's the case. So either there's only 1 captain, or there's a couple captains, or 3 captains, or something like that. I think we just have to wait and see. But I would imagine that Sommers would be a prime candidate for being that next dude up. Eagle Train, thanks for the 5. Saint Sommers is already iconic. Zeke Yeager looking ass. Yeah, he does look like him from Attack on Titan, if you guys know. Raylan Gabon is like a combination of Nami and Zoro, and Sanji and Zoro relationships for Roger. Yeah, I just like that the relationships are a bit different. It's not a copy-paste. Because Roger is his own character at the end of the day. He is different than... he's just different than Luffy, right? He's similar in a lot of ways, but at the same time, not quite. I'd say the biggest difference... So here's an interesting aspect of why I think Rayleigh and Gabon have somewhat different personalities to Zoro and Sanji in a lot of senses. Roger's biggest difference from Luffy, they're both childlike, right? Roger is not quite as dumb as Luffy, it doesn't seem. Like, Luffy is straight up, like, he'll get fooled if you just put on a mask or something like that, or put on a wig, right? He's not as dumb as Luffy, because Luffy's, like, genuinely has a problem, right? That level of dumb. But Roger is kind of fun-loving, childlike, similar to Luffy. Roger is more aggressive than Luffy. If you go back through all of Roger's chapters that we've ever seen, Roger is a bit more bullheaded and aggressive as a figure than Luffy. Whereas Luffy will often kind of like... Luffy often, how do I say... He can be very bullheaded and stubborn, but he's not aggressive normally, at least not with his crew. So because of that, I think, for example, like, a simple contrast is kind of like Roger and Rayleigh. Because Roger is naturally a bit more of an aggressive type figure, a good foil for Roger then becomes a figure like Rayleigh, who is a bit more calm, wise, almost pacifistic in a way. Whereas with Luffy is like so happy-go-lucky, silly, all of that, which is why a good foil for him is like a bit more hard-assed and a bit more like bloodthirsty figure like Zoro, right? Bloodthirsty is a bit too far to describe Zoro, but like Zoro is a bit more of a traditional fighter type in terms of personality than Luffy. You will see Luffy's fighter tendencies come up, obviously, when it's time, but he's generally speaking more happy-go-lucky, goofy, etc. That's even why in that speech that Zoro had, he's like, look, I don't mind if you tend to make a fool of yourself like most of the time and just goof around, but like when it comes down to it, I need you to act like my captain, right? So it's kind of just the contrasting personalities that fit better with the respective characters. I don't think Roger would work as well if his right hand was someone like a Zoro, right? I think flip side, something like Sanji and Gabon, right? It again fits more with the characters that they need to play to. So I just think the dynamics had to be different because the type of character that Roger is a bit different. So like if you have Rayleigh as kind of the more calm, very laid back, very more gentle figure, I think, at Roger's side, then Gabon becomes like Gabon is a bit more headstrong and like wild himself. So him having a bit more of a butting, like I can't imagine Roger and Rayleigh really butting heads the way that Roger and Gabon do, if that makes sense. So it just makes for different dynamics. I think the other big thing is, right, we haven't really seen a Nami-esque figure on Roger's crew. So it's a good point that Gabon, almost like in terms of the ways that he will, in a headstrong way, butt heads with Roger, it can feel Nami-esque as well, because that's ultimately what Roger needs, right? If he doesn't have a Nami on the crew, then his Sanji figure also needs to take on a bit of a Nami role. So I think Oda just thought it out really nicely, and I like the unique dynamics that we get there. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 150 real quick. All right. Continuing on. Nundu V, thanks for the 2. What are the 3 worst arcs in One Piece to you, excluding Long Ring, Long Land? Worst for me, worst is just, I guess, least enjoyable. So least enjoyable, I'd say Reverse Mountain, number 1. Yeah, I'd say Reverse Mountain. It's not even like there's anything bad about Reverse Mountain. I just don't, it's like, I don't personally care for it that much, and people will be like, Laboon, and I get it, but I think almost any arc that I say, period, there'll be something you could say that's good about it, right? Like, if I said Long Ring, Long Land, then people would be like, but Afro Luffy, and like Foxy's funny, and like the comedy and stuff. Like, there's always something good about every One Piece arc. To me, Wano is an obvious one just because like of how big and important it was. Like, it's essentially the climax to all the writing from chapter 650 onwards to 1050. All of that writing is basically, it's just for the Wano storyline, right? So with how big it was and how, in my eyes, it's nowhere near as good as other arcs like in Enies Lobby and Alabasta, etc. So relative to its significance for the story, that makes Wano the worst arc for me because it's the one that needed to be like 11 out of 10 with how much was writing on it. Reverse Mountain is kind of like the opposite end of the spectrum where it's kind of just like, to me, it's a very nothing arc. I don't care about the Laboon stuff, honestly. I cared about it more once we met Brook, but I didn't care about it heads up right away. I'd say next would... Fishman Island, I would say is... I'd say Fishman Island. And Fishman Island, it's funny because I don't even think it's a bad arc. I think, like, at first I thought it was a bad arc, and then, like, as I got older and on reread and everything like that, I thought I've shifted to thinking, like, it's still solid. The backstories are really good for it. The backstories are phenomenal, and it's good for what the purpose it serves for the story overall. But as an arc, for the level of, like, for how weak the overall conflict was and how unengaging the overall conflict was, right? Ignoring the backstories, how unengaging the overall conflict was, it is just way too long of an arc at 50 chapters. And I think I've kind of now view Fishman Island as like a worrying sign of things to come, in the sense that like even a arc that has a very, very simple plot like Fishman Island, now with Oda's new setup of like always having so many like Straw Hats to write and so many different side characters, even something that should on paper be a very short arc ballooned to 50 chapters long, which is kind of insane to think about. So I'd say Fishman Island, like, it's weird because I can appreciate it as an arc more now, but then if I'm rereading the story, I still don't look forward. All I can think of is the arcs I don't look forward to getting to, and Fishman Island is still one of them. Like, I don't look forward to getting through chapters on chapters of like Sanji's nosebleed and them doing the shopping district and then like the nothing Ryukyu Palace invasion and then the Horde fights and like how long holy shit, those fights actually took a long ass the whole climax took a very long time for very unexciting things to take place. It's really just the flashbacks that are good there. Anyway, Fourth Wanderer, thanks for the 5. Luffy Jinbei Rage Bait is crazy, but bro, think how clutch he was in Marineford, Impel Down, Fishman Island, and Whole Cake, bro. Think for a second, Morj. I think you're thinking that I'm saying that that Jinbei is useless. I'm not. I'm saying that he and Luffy are not as iconic of a dynamic as Luffy Zoro, and that they're not in the same tier, right? So I think you're saying that, well, Jinbei has had good moments. I agree that, first of all, Impel Down, Jinbei Luffy wasn't much of a dynamic in Impel Down. If anything, Luffy Ivankov and Luffy Bon Clay took center stage during those arcs. It was really in Marineford, in the final part of Marineford, that Luffy Jinbei started to shine through as a dynamic, okay? This is talking about dynamics. This is in reference to last Monday's stream, where we were talking about which Straw Hat crew dynamics are most significant in the story. And we're talking about Luffy Zoro, Zoro Sanji, Luffy Nami, Luffy Usopp, like the real important ones. And then people started saying like, oh, Luffy Jinbei should be S tier. And I was like, what? Are these people who accidentally forgot to read 90% of the story? I was just so baffled by the existence of these people. So you got Marineford. Fishman Island, he was clutch, but that's like every Straw Hat in their origin arc is very clutch. And if anything, Jinbei has less significance in his... He has less of a spotlight in his primary arc, which is Fishman Island, than like, Nami in Arlong Park, Usopp in Surf Village, Sanji in Baratie, stuff like that, right? But he's in Fishman Island, and he plays a role there. We are going to have a guest on shortly. He's in Fishman Island, has a role there, obviously. Then he's gone for a long time. Then he's there in Whole Cake Island, has limited to no interactions with Luffy throughout Whole Cake Island, except towards the end when Luffy tells him to show up again. So there's not really a duo dynamic going on at any fucking point in Whole Cake Island. And then he doesn't fucking interact with Luffy at all in Wano. There's no iconic duo scenes of Luffy and Jinbei and Wano. So essentially when people are talking about Luffy and Jinbei the duo, they mean the end of Marineford when Jinbei was the only Straw Hat that Luffy could possibly interact with because the rest weren't there. It's so comical to even begin to compare that to a dynamic like Luffy Zoro or Luffy Nami, where they have scenes, storylines, significant dramatic moments throughout the entirety of the 1100 chapters of One Piece, including right this very moment. Right this very moment. The simple challenge I would give to you is if Luffy and Jinbei are paired together for a little storyline on their own, what the fuck would what does their dialogue even look like? What does their dynamic look like? I can tell you what Luffy and Zoro scenes look like. It's what happened this chapter. That's what happens anytime you put Luffy and Zoro together. We all know what Luffy and Nami storylines look like when they're paired together. We know exactly how that dynamic is. We know the push-pull, the type of dialogue, the type of gags, the type of general energy and atmosphere, the direction Luffy's going to be trying to pull, the direction Nami's going to be trying to pull. We know exactly what Luffy and Usopp looks like because they're fucking hanging out all the fucking time throughout the story, right? There is no Luffy-Jinbei dynamic. There's no duo there. Because the only fucking time that Luffy and Jinbei was actually a duo was the point where there were no other Straw Hats in existence. So yeah, by default, there was a duo right then, but if you paired Luffy and Jinbei together right now, there's no fucking dynamic that exists between the two. Oda wouldn't even fucking do that, I can't imagine, because it'd be so fucking boring. The last time Luffy and Jinbei were together was like the start of Egghead, and guess what? It was Luffy, Jinbei, Chopper, and Bonnie, and there was no fucking interaction between Luffy and Jinbei, period. You can't think of any scenes, any bits of dialogue, nothing, because Jinbei's he's got no dynamic with Luffy. There's nothing there. If anything, Luffy interacted with Chopper and Bonnie significantly more than Jinbei, and Jinbei was like a fourth wheel in that whole group. There's nothing there. There's no dynamic between Luffy and Jinbei. I can't imagine what the fuck you would do even if you put those two characters in a room and had them go off together. There's nothing there. It's so absurd. All right, continuing on. To say that it's similar to Luffy Zoro is just so blasphemous. It's like, do you not respect what Oda's done with Luffy Zoro over the course of the series, what he's done with Zoro Sanji? How could you say that Luffy Jinbei is in the same tier? Off of one arc, Marineford. Off of one arc. It's just insane. Anyway, Toby Obito, thanks for the 2. Bro is dropping a Buster Call full of F-bombs. Because this has legitimately gotten me upset. It's just so disrespectful to the actually great dynamics that Oda has written for Luffy and other characters. To just be like, well, remember that one time that Luffy only had Jinbei to talk to? What an S-tier dynamic. It's the same as Luffy and Zoro. Who, by the way, in the span of East Blue alone, there is more writing and development and more of a developed dynamic between Luffy and Zoro in East Blue alone than there has been for Luffy and Jinbei in the entire series. And then on top of that, Luffy and Zoro obviously have a continuing dynamic over the rest of the 1,000 chapters in One Piece. So how could they be in the same tier? It just makes no sense. It's just so absurd. All right, continuing on. Behenort, thanks a lot. We now have 11 confirmed world noble families, and the fact that Jupiter's relative is a god's knight makes me curious if there are Neron's God's Knights. Oh, interesting. I'm sorry, but Emu grandparent idea is funny to me, LMAO. Well, he's probably having sex up there, right? He's probably doing something. He can't just be like a lonely shadow forever. So maybe there are kids. That is interesting. I would have to look again at the 11 confirmed world noble families. And one thing that I find interesting is that Saint Somers is a shepherd. And I believe, along with other people, that Jupiter is potentially going to be a traitor. So this could be some setup to give us some insight into Jupiter, humanize him a bit as we learn about like his evil family member or something like that, and maybe come to some understanding as if it leads to some traitor storyline. But I think that this could be some setup to learn a bit more about Jupiter. The Final Storm, thanks for the 5. Hi, Morj. Have you updated your Gear 5th thoughts based on Chapter 1140? Despite it being brief, Luffy didn't laugh, and dialogue shows he was clearly angry. What do you... But he is charging and smiling. It's literally like, nice one, Zoro. He's smiling as soon as he turns into Gear 5th. I don't know what the... He's smiling in every chapter that he's in every panel as they're charging Gabon. His anger moment comes after and is like a gag anger moment. Like, it's one of those, like, what the fuck? What do you do? It's like when they get angry at Crocus for the blood type shit. Okay, we are going to have a guest on real quick for the next 10 minutes, everybody. We're having a guest on. So give me a second here. Give me 1 second here. Give me 1 second. I'll be catching up on supers as we continue. Let's get the stream likes up to 150 real quick. We might be having a guest here. We should. All right, I'll just have that up, and then if they want to join, then they'll be joining. All right, continuing on. Oh, they're here. All right. Here we go. Yeah, you guys can see? Hello. Oh, a Scopper Gabon profile pic. All right. Hey, man, can you hear me? Hello. Let me see if I can do this. Should be all good.
Is that better?
Yes, I can hear you now. What's going on, man? Hey, everybody say hi to Vix. Thanks for coming through, man. How'd you like the chapter? You must like the chapter quite a bit if you're a Scopper Gabon fan.
I've been awaiting Scott Gaban to show up for a long time. I'm so happy that he's here. He is thankfully relevant to what I would like to be discussing in my little time slot as well. So
yeah, please.
Good to see that I was on the right track with all this stuff.
Yeah, congrats, man. You must be over the moon with how the treatment that he's getting so far.
Oh yeah, he had a great showing. It's fantastic.
So what are your thoughts,
cool
man?
Guy.
Yeah, what are you thinking?
Well, listen, I'd like to see if I can just get across to you an idea that I've been having around for a while. I don't really have so much of a theory or a prediction for what's going to happen, but I'd like to bring to your all attention two contrasting like motifs or symbols that have been throughout the story that I think have some important thematic implications that I think, based on the recent chapters, are going to be very relevant going forward. So I'd like to see if I can't make my case for this not being a complete flight of fancy. And that you can get something out of this.
Please shoot. That sounds really interesting.
Yes. What I'll be talking about is the contrasting images of food and alcohol and their associated like themes and motifs and everything. It's actually pretty rich. I hope that I can at least sell you on this.
Yeah, sure.
So like I first started thinking about this, of course, thinking about the comparison between, Zoro and Sanji that's throughout the series, and their association with food and alcohol is obvious. But I also thought about how this relates to Big Mom and Kaido. And they have some respective things in common besides food and alcohol. At first, I was thinking that alcohol here might stand in for death and food for life, but I think that's only partly true. Zoro's like, I don't need to comment on how much he's associated with death. He's the king of hell.
Yeah.
His promise to Kuina, his encounter with the Grim Reaper, and, Kaido's own idea, his own wish to die. And Big Mom and Sanji's very similar aspirations to create a place in the world where multitudinous forms of life can coexist with each other. But really, it's kind of more than
Big Mom's ability is even to give life, so I really like where you're going there.
Exactly, right? But really, it's a lot more than that, because I think there's an aspect of like violence there too. Like Zoro wants to be a powerful warrior, a warrior known in the heavens, such that he can transcend death with his own fighting power. And Kaido only really understands and knows war. And I mean, like, Sanji does fight as well, but really he fights for the sake of love and peace and protection of the weak. And I mean, Big Mom is somewhat of an inversion of this kind of loving parental figure, but she's also probably the most diplomatic and the least she's the least warlike, if the wedding is anything to go by, of any of the Yonko. No, but it goes bigger than this, right? So like that's not alcohol's only association, as everyone knows. There's a big one that kind of has to be acknowledged, which is the taking of sake cups, which is prevalent.
Mm.
It's a sign of commitment to somebody, like say, with the Grand Fleet and Luffy, or with Luffy and Sabo and Ace. It's a sign of you have an obligation to one another, right? It's something that sort of makes you indebted to somebody. The same way with Zoro is wholly motivated by his promise, by his indebtedness to Kuina. And if you read Monsters, Ryuma, who's kind of a model for Zoro, he will even do things that for people who he owes something that he wouldn't personally morally agree with, because we have sort of it's a representation of kind of a mode of life, or a kind of an ethic of reciprocity and being sort of beholden to people and respecting that on people. Even the guy like named after the concept of sake cups, Sakazuki, he's incredibly loyal to the idea
Hmm.
of justice and the Marines sort of paying your debt to society. In contrast, Sanji has no such deference to the expectations put on him. He was born to be something he completely failed at, but that doesn't define him at all. He found his guidance freely on his own. He adopted his own values willingly. It was presented by a loving parental figure, and he decided to follow in his footsteps, even when he wasn't beholden to, you know?
Yeah. No, this is phenomenal stuff, man. I think this is really interesting. I
But
don't.
it
Well,
gets it gets bigger.
yeah,
It
yeah.
gets
Keep going.
bigger,
Keep
okay?
going. Okay.
Think about the idea of the whole like sort of cosmic beholdenness of fate itself. People who like the drink always seem to like the idea of fate or chance or luck.
Hmm.
And this had to be pointed out to me on Twitter, but this is great. This is what kind of led me out of the thinking in terms of death too simply. Like when Zoro gets Sanda Kitetsu in Logtown, he kind of tests his luck and throws a sword into the air and kind of lets his luck or lets his chance or his fate protect him. And we've got someone like Rayleigh, who
Hmm.
his whole journey, he's called, the underworld king. That's the better translation from the Japanese. Dark King is kind of a misnomer.
Hmm.
His whole journey starts off with a promise that he makes to Roger. He's a big time drinker. He's also a gambler. And he kind of contemplates the idea of Luffy's fate, um, in the sense of thinking about sort of, how his path is set for him. On another side note, there is something that sort of Zoro and Rayleigh and Sakazuki have in common as well, that I think is part of this whole thematic sort of nexus, which is kind of the infernal. Zoro calls himself the king of hell. Sakazuki is associated with the sort of the subterranean and the infernal, and and Rayleigh is the underworld. And who is the king of the underworld? It's Pluto, right? So we think about Pluton, who sort of rules over the subterranean realm. He's heavily associated, or it rather, is heavily associated with Wano and with Alabasta. These are two pagan nations. Now, this kind of idea of deference and loyalty and repaying of debts and your sort of station in life being decided for you and having to fulfill that is a very sort of pre-Christian uh, kind of traditional idea that gives birth to the concept of Bushido, which is kind of like it's not just the law that everyone should follow; it's the law of the warrior caste and what they should follow. In contrast, places like Marijua, where we assume Uranus to be, and even I think to an extent like the German 66 Kingdom and Totoland as well. I especially think that like Big Mom's boat kind of gives off this impression. It's kind of associated with Europe or like Christian civilization from like around the Renaissance and the era of exploration up until maybe the early modern period, kind of the burgeoning of these democratic, humanistic, liberal ideas, right? Where people can, people have their rights that are given to them just by existing, and that they can go off and sort of live their life as they wish to, so long as they don't infringe on other people's rights. It's a totally different form of looking at this, looking at Sanji, this sort of is a representation of like he just wants to empower people to, or if he like he doesn't stand by the infringement of other people's rights, where it doesn't bother someone like Zoro in the same way. So whole sort of there's this whole two different worlds, two different perspectives that are being portrayed here, and ultimately I think its culmination is to be found in Luffy and what's going to be happening with Luffy going forward, because Luffy is someone who is very committed to keeping his promises to people. A lot of his actions in the series like are motivated by keeping promises to people like Rebecca and Tama and even to Shanks to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
But he absolutely will not be put upon. Like he will not live his life in the way that anyone else tells him to. Freedom is his direct goal. You know, he wants to be the Pirate King to be free, to achieve whatever it is he wants to. If freedom is the goal. But of course, what's been happening recently is kind of elucidating the fact that his destiny doesn't seem to be in his hands. It's decided for him. Like the Harley text seems to be deciding what Luffy will be doing going forward. So there's this paradox here that needs to be resolved going forward of like how can you be free in a world where your fate is kind of already decided? Even if you constellate that idea with like the idea that Luffy's dream is to kind of have a worldwide banquet or party where everyone will get their fill of alcohol, everyone will get their fill of food, or even the idea that I've heard before that like the One Piece is a bottle of sake and that thinks sake is about this. I think it
Mm-hmm.
may very well be a sake cup. It is an offer from Joy Boy to whoever comes after to inherit his will the same way sort of Hiriluk pours that cup for someone to inherit
Ooh,
his
that's a
will,
cool idea. That's a really cool
right?
idea. Yeah.
But Luffy insists that he's not Joy Boy, that he's not Nika.
Mm-hmm.
So what's going to happen? Is this sort of prophecy going to be fulfilled or not? Or is there a difference between those two things? I think it's a problem that a lot of people have with the plot so far, but I think that Oda has something in store for us, this kind of resolution, this paradox that I think will have something genuinely profound to say about human life, about how we relate to the world around us and how we decide to lead the course of our lives. I think it's going to be. I hope he doesn't drop the ball anyway. I think it's going to be really good.
No, I
I'm quite sure he's thinking about this stuff, so I
I
think it'll
very
come
much
to a great resolution.
I very much hope you're right on that, because I do think that that will become one of the or it already really is one of the bigger points of, kind of like, we're skirting around the issue a little bit at the moment, where Luffy is this main character who is the embodiment of freedom. That's what he symbolized throughout the story. He's always rejected routes being set upon him or thrust upon him by other people, and yet it seems like he is set to play out such a predestined path at the end of the day. So it's something that is already becoming apparent in the story, but we've kind of just all stepped back and been like, well, let's wait and see what Oda does with this first and see if this actually turns into a very sort of profound thematic conflict for Luffy, or something that he as a character actually has to work through, because the potential there is phenomenal, so long as Oda has actually thought out how is he going to reconcile these two ideas of what Luffy's supposed to represent and then the role that Luffy ultimately seems set up to play. So I really, really like all the things that you're talking about here. This was phenomenal, by the way, man. I'm sure that everybody in chat can also support that this was like, you just came in and dropped in a whole like video essay basically. I should have done this at the top of the
Yeah,
at
that's
the top
sorry.
of this,
I'm
but
too lazy
like,
to make my own
no,
video
no
essays.
worries.
So
Let me just ask. So like, what's where should I shout you out? Like, what's your? Are you a creator of any sort or anything, or you just wanted to come
I
in and
just run
talk?
a Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter at I smoke shatter.
All right,
Letter I, that is I smoke shatter. No caps, no underscores.
all right.
Go
Hold on,
follow me
hold
over
on.
there. I tweet
Let
about this
me let
stuff. I
me
tweet about
find your link real quick before I lose you. What is it? I what? I
I
smoke
smoke shatter.
chat. Oh, okay. I think I found you, Vix. Yeah, here we go. All right. All right. Yeah, let me drop you for the people so the people can see. Hold on here. Yeah, this was phenomenal, man. So anybody who
I
wants
appreciate that you find value in it.
to check out, yeah, this was really, really good. You came in with like a ton of great stuff, like already thought out and really phenomenally structured. You could just put this in like an essay format, and people would have eaten that up for sure, because this was really, really, really interesting to listen to, at least for me, and I'm sure for everybody in chat. This was phenomenal, man.
I
Um,
hope so. I hope so. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity, and thank you for the posters. They're
oh yeah,
fantastic.
for sure, man. Of course, if anybody else wants the posters, you can get them at the Morj store. I'll do the command for that real quick so that people can get that. But yeah, thanks for coming through, man. Any last things you want to get off real quick, or did you cover pretty much everything you wanted to say? That was really interesting, sincerely.
There's a couple of stuff I didn't, there's a couple of things I didn't get to mention, but I'm sure I'll mention them going forward. You can just dig through my Twitter. There's all sorts of stuff like that in there. It's good stuff in my opinion. Go follow Maho Mage at MAHOU_MAGE. Go follow him. He's smart. He taught me everything I need to know
All right,
about this stuff. To be honest,
go check
he
out
showed
that
the
guy
path,
too.
and he'll teach you
All right,
too.
man. Thank you for coming through. I really appreciate it. I'm glad you enjoyed the posters. And yeah, everybody just W's in the chat for Vix. This was a
My
great,
pleasure.
great, great guest to have on. Thanks a lot, man. I'll talk to you later.
No bother. See you later.
All right. All right, that was pretty cool. Yeah, just shouts in the chat for Vix. He just came in with like a whole thing. Really, just really ready to go. That was phenomenal. That was phenomenal. I imagine a lot of people really enjoyed that. I found that very illuminating. Yeah. So definitely, if you guys want to go check out his Twitter, give him a follow or something like that. I'm sure that he would appreciate that. And if you want to check out the other stuff that he's got up there. All right, continuing on. Let's get the stream legs up to 200 for Vix. The Final Storm, thanks for the 5. Hi, Morj. Have you updated your Gear 5th thoughts? Oh, no, we covered this. We covered this already. Tiptoe2910, thanks for the 10. Do you think the tension in this arc is dead after Scopper said to meet him after the battle before leaving Elbaf, as that is essentially a get-out-of-jail-free Scopper card? I don't know, because I think that would assume that Scopper can resolve whatever the conflict of this arc is, and I think that we're kind of past the point where, you know, like if you want to rewind, even in Saboti really wasn't a get out of jail free card. He stopped them all from being like killed by Kizaru, but at the end of the day, the Strats still got fucked up at Saboti. I thought that was a really cool way to have events play out, where it was kind of like the Strats are so overwhelmed by Kizaru and Sentamaru and all the pacifistas and everything. And then it's like Rayleigh swoops in, so it's like, oh, Rayleigh, this is how they're going to survive. And it's Rayleigh's like, listen, man, I can handle Kizaru, but you guys are just too fucking scrub-like right now. Even if I'm taking care of the Admiral, you guys are such scrubs that you can't handle yourselves against like what's left, basically. And Rayleigh's like, that's not my fault at that point in time, you know? Like, I'm taking care of Kizaru. You can't really ask more out of me than that. So even in Saboti, Rayleigh didn't end up being a get-out-of-jail-free card because the Strats... Well, technically, because I guess in the most literal sense, he was a get-out-of-jail-free card because if Rayleigh didn't exist, then the Strats would have been captured by Kizaru and thrown in jail. But you know what I mean? Like, the general version of the term get-out-of-jail-free, the phrase get-out-of-jail-free, the Strats still got fucked up even though Rayleigh showed up, right? So just because Scopper Gaban's there, I feel like at this point in time, at this age, he is not going to be taking down like Shamrock for the Straw Hats or taking down like it's possible even the second in command of the Gods Knights. We don't know yet. We don't know this individual yet, but like it's unlikely that I think I think that it's no longer a get out of jail free card. I think Rayleigh Gaban showed up to show up, give that I think there's going to be lore that we get at the end of Elbaf. I think it's possible Gaban shows up earlier than expected. Again, so not necessarily at the end of the arc, but a little bit partway through. And so maybe there's a moment where he ends up being a get-out-of-jail-free card, but he's not a solution to the problem of Elbaf, you know, the Gods Knights showing up. Continuing on. Let me catch up here. Let me catch up. King J, thanks a lot. I was expecting Shamrock to not leave, but the three Holy Knights who decided to stay, being an awakened mythical Zoan, a swordsman, and a woman who uses directions to fight, works perfect for Luffy, Zoro, Nami. That is a really, really good point. That is a phenomenal set of matchups, but the one thing is I don't know if that awakened mythical Zoan, that Kirin dude, he doesn't scream like potential Luffy matchup to me. Maybe a little mini fight or something early on. Maybe if Shamrock hangs around for a moment, we get to see him versus Luffy just briefly. That would be nice. And then maybe Sanji gets a shot at the Kirin. I don't know. But I do think Somers versus Zoro would be really cool to see. Molly, thanks for the 5. I remember you having a little segment about villains being more serious as we go on, but it seems like the Gods Knights could still be a bit goofy. Yes, it does seem like the Gods Knights are a bit more goofy. I guess I would say that they're probably going to be less endearing as time goes on. So, like, I don't think the Gods Knights are set to be redeemable characters, most likely across the board. At the end of the day, even some Celestial Dragons, though, you know, like there was the Celestial Dragon from Fishman Island who got redeemed, you know. Grizzly Adams, thanks for the 5. Saying Gaban plays into the Nami role personality-wise fits nicely with my theory that he is the navigator for the Roger Pirates. You might be right, Grizzly Adams. You might be right. King J, thanks a lot. Yamato said that she wants to start a journey in Wano similar to Odin. I think the cover story is leading her to her being the daimyo of Udon region with Ulti, Page 1, and 7 other retainers joining her. Please don't let there be 7 new scabbards. Please just let... I could see Yamato becoming the daimyo of Udon, freeing it from Who's Who or something like that. I could definitely see that. And Ulti and Page 1, as far as I remember, they're not such bad characters that they should be fine, right? Like if they ended up joining under Yamato, that'd be kind of cool, maybe. But I don't need 7 new retainers. You know what I'm saying? KGM78, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 28 months. I think Elbaf will be the next island to get Lelouch. Some kids will get napped, and the named giants will flee to go save them and survive. Wait, so you think the rest... I don't think the giants of Elbaf as a nation are getting destroyed, though. I don't think that's going to happen. If the weapon is fired at Elbaf, maybe it destroys a large portion of the tree, but it's not big enough to destroy the whole tree. Who knows? Carnage, thanks for the 5. What do you think Gaban was referring to when he was talking to Shanks about trusting Luffy? First thing I thought of was the road poneglyph. Was that the dialogue? Let me see again. Let me read again. Talking to Shanks about trusting Luffy. Wait a sec. I've only actually read OP scans. Did TCB already put theirs out? Let me check TCB. Check TCB. I only read OP scans because I think I don't think I realized the TCB, or I think I realized the TCB was out later, but I didn't end up reading it. Duh, it's my treasure. I'm holding on to it for Shanks. Holding on to it. He didn't just give it to you. What a cheapskate. Blah blah blah. Okay, never mind. I don't think that there's anything in there about trust necessarily, as far as I can tell. I don't think it was trust. I think he was just kind of mocking or teasing a little bit. I do agree with the sentiment that Gaban likely wanted Luffy to turn into Gear 5th by the end of their fight, so I think Gaban was pushing and prodding to get him there. Nundu V, thanks for the 5. Thanks for the 2. Are you worried about Zoro character arc given Wano? No, because I personally feel like at the end of the day, just the way that Oda's written the story so far, I think that I feel like he when he wrote the Straw Hats, right? The reason you give the Straw Hats, the reason you give all of them dreams is because Oda likely has a vision of how he wants all of their character story arcs to resolve in the end, right? So I'm confident that from the beginning, Oda has the resolution. And there's so many things about One Piece that we've seen that we can tell that in terms of conclusion, Oda's always had it mapped very, very, very tightly. He's probably added more layers to it as the story has gone on, but it seems like the conclusion is something that he's been building towards for a long time. So I'm confident in... Oda's always said that he planned One Piece to be a certain length, and then it just got longer and longer and longer, right? So I think that's one of the reasons that earlier arcs, especially introduction arcs for the Straw Hats, they tend to have very strong character writing, right? Or introduction arc, like foundational launching arcs for the Straw Hats, right? Like Nami Arlong Park, Chopper Drum Kingdom, Sanji Baratier, stuff like that, Usopp Spirit Village, Robin Enies Lobby, Frankie Enies Lobby, stuff like that, right? Because that's when you're introducing the character. You're not going to be introducing the character without having a clear storyline for them thought out from the beginning, right? The end point of the character is why you're giving them a dream, right? And why are you including this character in the story in the first place? It's likely because in the final vision of the story, this character serves some purpose, right? So I imagine that Oda thought of the initial storyline for each character very well, and he thought about the end storyline for each character very well, for each Straw Hat, right? I think what then happens is that now you have this whole middle section where Oda's adding and adding and adding more things and more arcs and more plot lines. And it is very, very difficult to have thought out character arcs across hundreds and hundreds of chapters of this sort of middle expanse of the story, or second third of the story, or something like that, for all of your characters, right? He had something for Sanji and Whole Cake. That's great. He had stuff for Usopp and Dressrosa. Good. We've seen still good character arcs for Straw Hats here and there, but it's just hard. It's unlikely that Oda thought of things for all of them across all of these arcs, right? When he was writing Nami as a character, I don't know if he even thought that Punk Hazard's going to be an arc. Dressrosa is going to be an arc in the future, right? What I'm confident in is that Oda, whatever the final arcs of the story are set up to be like, I'm confident that he had those in mind from the beginning, right? So those are the arcs where I would feel confident that Oda, whatever storylines he's got saved for the Straw Hats, the end stretch for all the Straw Hats, I think will be very strong because Oda likely created them with the end stretches in mind, right? You're not writing a character like Zoro with all this stuff of promise to his friend, promise to Mihawk, promise to his captain, dream of becoming the world's strongest swordsman, making heaven know his name. Like, you're not writing all that stuff without an idea of, like, where it's gonna, like, how's Zora's story gonna wrap up, right? Same with Robin. You're not writing all of this stuff about the history in her dream and stuff without an idea of how to wrap that up. You're not. I don't think Oda would write Brook's story without already having thought out what Brook and Laboon's reunion would look like. You know. So I think this is the stretch that I would feel most confident in Oda having character arcs for the majority of his of the Straw Hats thought out. Stefan Dreyer, thanks for the 5. Preach, brother. I'm gonna assume it's about Jinbei. No, maybe you're talking about Vix. I'm gonna assume it's about Vix. I don't know who was talking at that point in time. Mahad Yare, thanks a lot. Hi, Morj. I'm thinking the summonings used by the Gorse and the God Saints might be the power system that was used in the old world, and Devil Fruits came about as people wanted a way to combat that. Oh, thanks for your first super ever. That is a very interesting idea. I had not thought about another power system on top of all these ones. At the same time, though, it seems like a lot of their abilities, like the yokai forms, are very similar to Devil Fruits. So I don't know if that would be the case. And it does sound like in the second world, Devil Fruits were already a thing at that point in time. King J, thanks a lot. Gunko's arrow being similar to what Emu used against Sabo makes me think that the mark needed to travel through an abyss pentagon is that you have to inherit one of the many powers Emu has. That is a cool idea. I love that. In that case, Emu has all of these powers at the end of the day. That would be kind of fucking insane. How do you even defeat that? Lewis Buchanan, thanks for the 5. Hey, Morj, love your rants. Sommers brought a whole chair and wardrobe to Elbaf. What's stopping the Knights from teleporting food to Marijua? Thanks for your first super ever. I don't know, man. Just plot stuff. There's got to be some limits to what they could bring, and plus that shit's beneath them, you know? King J, thanks a lot. While Lucci, Kaku, and the Elders have black awakening clouds, it's crazy that Kirin Zoan has white awakening like Yamato and Luffy. Do you think that there's legitimately like a good guy, bad guy sort of thing going on here? What if the Kirin ends up being a good guy then? Because he does seem like a little more harmless. Does he say anything that bad this chapter? Let's see. Do you think Oda's signifying who's a good guy and bad guy with the type of clouds that they get? This is bad, this is bad. I'm going to be late. I won't make it. I was half asleep. Where are we going again? Maybe it's a good guy maybe it's a fucking good guy. Maybe not a good guy right now, but maybe he turns into a good guy. Because I do think there's, like, celestial dragons, some of them being redeemable is going to be a thing in the story. So this is Land of Giants. Everything's huge. It's because you're meant to go home, Captain. Shit, maybe Kirin's a good guy. What the fuck? Okay, Kirin mythology. Let's see. What is a Kirin, Killin, Chillin, right, like? Is it... I think it was in the Harry Potter movie. Like the Fantastic Beasts movie. One of the newer ones. What is it like? What's its... Okay. They're always shown, blah, 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 blah. Are they good characters or bad characters sometimes? Like, are they auspicious? What are they? I guess we don't have enough information. I guess they could be good or bad. Fuck! That's a really cool point. That's a really, really cool point. King J, thanks a lot for bringing that up. If I ever make a theory on that, I'll shout you out. That's a really good point. Maybe he's good. Maybe he's a good guy. Imagine a Celestial Dragon Straw Hat. Imagine a Straw Hat joining the Celestial Dragons. Quick, are there any mythical Zoans that we know of who have, or awakened Zoans? Are there any awakened Zoans that we know of who have white clouds instead of black? Kirin are generally good. They're said to reside in kingdoms that are ruled by a benevolent ruler. Interesting. Love that, King J. Thank you. Lakan Osagi. Thanks, Osagi. Sorry if I mispronounced that. Thanks for the 5. Hey, oh, no, we covered this. No. Cosmic Beholdedness. Yeah, I like that line. I like that line a lot. From Vix. Continuing on. Talha, good to see you as usual. Thanks for the 279. You think Romeo will be in the story like Ryuma is? Romeo? Are you talking about from one of Oda's one-shots? Was this the gunslinger? I don't remember the names of any of the other one-shot protagonists. Oda. Let's see. Is it the Gunslinger? Oda one shots. What are the other ones? Okay, so Wanted. Let's see. I read all of them one time. They're all genuinely very enjoyable. If I were to rank them, I would say um, Monsters, it was my favorite, then God's Gift for the Future, then Wanted, then Ikiyako. I don't think Ikiyako was that good. I thought it was very generic. I don't count other versions of One Piece like Romance Dawn version 2. Who is the protagonist of Wanted? Oh no, it's Wild Joe. Wait, then what are you talking about Romeo? I don't know who Romeo is. Who are you talking about? Shit, now my chat's not loading. What's going on here? What the fuck? Okay, we're good. Okay. The Final Storm, thanks for the 10. Attempting to clarify, ask for your thoughts on 1140 because you said you wanted to see more Gear 5 scenes like 1108/9, and I believe that 1140 showed that despite it being brief, different from 1092/3. I'm not going to say... So my thoughts on Gear 5th are still that, like, I love Gear 5th as a concept. I would just love to see it used more. Like, I don't want to lose the energy, like the truly serious Luffy energy that we got in, like, rounds like Luffy versus Crocodile round 3, Luffy versus Katakuri, Luffy versus Lucci, where it's not just like Luffy's getting angry for one moment. It's like the whole battle is intensely, deathly serious. I think that's One Piece at its best and most dramatic when you've really got Luffy in that state. While I think Luffy versus Kaido was really cool because it's a really fun change of pace, and it's fun to see, like, in the final round, Luffy being goofier and sillier than ever, I still think that in terms of what emotionally moves me and what captivates me about One Piece is how invested I can get into Luffy's more dramatic showdowns that are very, very serious and suspenseful with his final opponents in those particularly important matchups where it's just from start to finish really, really, really like a whole different side of Luffy that we don't normally see, where he's like deathly serious, just absolutely locked in, stoic, that side of Luffy that we see. I enjoy seeing that side of Luffy come out because it's so different than his norm, you know, because like the norm for Luffy is to be silly, goofy, joking around, right? Gear 5th adds to that. It like enhances that. I think one of my favorite aspects of Luffy's fights in the past, in his best fights, like versus Crocodile round 3, versus Lucci, versus Katakuri, versus Doflamingo, one of my favorite aspects is that in those scenarios, the situation has become so high stakes that Luffy is finally not acting his usual silly, goofy self, but is actually like the other side of him is coming out, and that's what makes that side of him so powerful to me, is because that's not normally how he's like, right? He's not normally that serious, that angry or anything like that. It's the contrast to his usual lighthearted, silly self that I personally really enjoy and makes those situations feel all the more intense to me, intense and dramatic, right? So while I enjoy Gear 5th as the mix-up, I still don't want to lose that side of Luffy because I think that's what made his best fights. That's what makes Luffy versus Lucci so memorable. That's what makes Luffy versus Katakuri so memorable. Luffy versus Doflamingo, Luffy versus Crocodile, the final round, all of that. Anyway, continuing on. To me. If that's not your preference, that's okay. That's just what I personally enjoy. King J, thanks a lot. I hope meeting Scopper after the Elbaf plotline goes away, like meeting Ryuma's grave plotline in Wano. I need a lore talk between Robin, Frankie, and Scopper. I assume you're saying that you're hoping it doesn't go away. I don't think it'll go away. There's a difference between Oda forgetting to have a character visit a grave versus like forgetting a character exists at all, like someone as important as Gaban. Gaban is Colin's dad, right? So it's unlikely that we don't see him. I think we might see him sooner than expected. Neox7, thanks for the 2. Gunko, former revolutionary who betrayed Ginny to the Gods Knights. That's an interesting idea. So I did see people talking on Twitter about Gunko potentially being a former Gods Knight, former Revolutionary Army member, because the Revolutionary Army members tend to have that hat and goggles look, right? It's identical to the rest of the Revolutionary Army. For Ginny to have been sold out by a Revolutionary Army member, that would be very, very, very interesting, because if she took up the offer to become a God's Knight and live among the Celestial Dragons, right? We know that so many characters crave that. Like, we fucking saw York do it. It's interesting. Stefan Dyer, thanks for the 5. Luffy, Zoro are going to Loki. The God's Knights are at the school. It's going to be the other group and maybe Gaban versus them. I wonder if we get to see Gaban fight them so soon. That'd be interesting. So you'd think we'd get Luffy and Zoro facing off against Loki downstairs. And then the other group versus the God's Knights. I'm going to be honest. I would like to see Luffy and Zoro against those characters more than the other group. I think it would just give us more of an idea of how to scale them. Here's why. I think that this is not to disrespect Sanji, but Sanji is hard to use as a measuring stick at the moment. He's hard to use as a measuring stick at the moment because, like, we don't yet know exactly where Sanji's supposed to... It's already kind of debated amongst readers a lot of where Sanji's supposed to fall, right? So, like, hotly debated, right? So, if you have the God's Knights show up and, like, beat up on Sanji, I don't know if that would, like, establish the God's Knights for a lot of people as that strong, because it could easily just turn into Sanji downplay with it being like, well, they just fucked up Sanji, but that doesn't mean anything, right? Flip side, if Sanji does really well against the God's Knights, I don't think that would necessarily even be used to hype up Sanji, because it could just be like, people are like, oh, well, the God's Knights aren't that strong because Sanji did well against them. You see how it can go either way? On the flip side, if it's someone like Luffy, you know, like, if we saw the God's Knights giving Luffy a challenge, like, it's the same way what happened with Scopper Gaban here, right? It's not like Scopper beat Luffy and Zoro, but he was clearly a threat to them, like, clearly viewed as a significant threat to them, and it clearly was not going to be easy taking him down, right? That's all you really need, and immediately Scopper Gaban is viewed as a hype character, right? It doesn't really matter anymore, like, is he Yonko level in his prime, is he whatever, right? Like, it's just, you've done enough to establish that we need to respect this man. We don't know exactly where he falls, but we need to respect him, right? Because it was with Luffy there, and then bonus with Zoro being there, right? If it's just beating up on, like, Sanji, Jinbei, etc., I think that won't do enough for a lot of people to establish what the God's Knights, how strong they're supposed to be. And then the flip side, if Sanji and, like, let's say Jinbei and Frankie or Robin do, like, a really good job defending against the God's Knights, I think that people would just be like, oh, the God's Knights aren't that big of a deal. So, I don't know. I would really love to see Shamrock versus Luffy here. I think that would be a really, really good way to establish threat early on, just a glimpse of it. And then it sounds like Shamrock's going to fuck off anyway. So if he's going to fuck off anyway, like, wouldn't it be good to kind of showcase his threat a little bit early on in the arc before he comes back in at the end of the arc? That's my thought process. EOS Kid, greater than Joy Boy, thanks to 5. Sup, Morj. Is it even a hot take to say Luffy and Kid was a better dynamic than Luffy Jinbei? Elbaf could cement this further if Kid returns in the arc. It was definitely more of a dynamic than Luffy Jinbei, as in, like, Oda actually wrote a dynamic around them, as in, like, if you have Luffy and Kid together, you know what a scene is going to be like, you know what type of interactions they're going to have, you know that Oda's paired them together intentionally in many ways, right? With Luffy Jinbei, it's like they're paired together only in the scenario where Luffy's not supposed to have any other Straw Hats, and Jinbei's the only person there because he's going to become a future Straw Hat. That's not the same fucking thing. In general, Oda's not fucking pairing Luffy and Jinbei together because there's no dynamic there. It's not a real dynamic. It's not a duo. It's not a thing. Luffy Jinbei is just like a relic of thinking of Stockholm Syndrome. It's a Stockholm Syndrome relic of, like, that one arc where Luffy didn't have any other crewmates, and so he latched on to the one friend that he had. That doesn't mean that's like saying Luffy and fucking Ivankov is like an S tier dynamic. It's like, no, Ivankov was just who was fucking there at that point in time. Anyway, continuing on. It's still good. Luffy Ivankov is still a good dynamic. I would argue Luffy Ivankov is a more fun dynamic to read, chapter to chapter, than Luffy Jinbei is, because there's just not much there. If you put Luffy and Ivankov in a room together and had them do a little storyline, I think it'd be more fun to read that than Luffy Jinbei, because there's just nothing fucking there. Case in point, Egghead Island. Beginning of Egghead Island. Continuing on. Grizzly Adams, thanks for the 5. It's really cool that Luffy and Zoro are now the ones being used as measuring sticks for the strength of legends of old. That's true. That's a really, really good point. That's a really good point. Yeah. They're the measuring sticks. That's funny. Back in the day, it would have been like, oh, how, like, holy shit, the left hand of the Pirate King, like imagine this is pre-time skip, right? The left hand of the Pirate King, like, holy shit, like, let's see how well Luffy and Zoro can do against him. Now it's more like, let's see how well this dude can do against Luffy and Zoro. And he did do really well. Behenor, thanks a lot. As a late penalty, you should add reading Yuri, since it's something so out of your comfort zone. Also, redemption for you for that abysmal ship stream. The ship stream was very, very good. The ship stream was very good, and at the end of the day, I let chat vote on most of it. So it's not like any of my stuff was like outlandish. My ship stream was phenomenal. I think the only ship that I totally was off about in terms of like my views not mirroring chat's views was like, I thought Kobe Rebecca was a thing. I think I just straight up forgot Kobe and Hibari's interactions. I literally thought Kobe Rebecca was going to be a thing. But then chat quickly, and I didn't think that Smoker, I didn't think the Smoker ship was that good. I always thought it was platonic, personally. Smoker Hina. I don't know. I thought that was kind of platonic. Carnage, thanks for 2, was referring to flashback scene in Last Super. Oh, shit. Hold on. 1 second. All right. Hello. The flashback scene in The Last Super. What flashback scene? Let me see real quick. What was your Last Super? Sorry, Carnage. Oh, talking to Shanks' ability, trusting Luffy. Oh, okay. Hold on. Let's see. Must have skimmed that. Hold on. Sorry about that. Give me a second here. All right. Okay. You really think I'd trust him that easily? Fair enough, do as you please. Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, that's fair. It's just some dude, right? It's just some dude he's talking to Shanks about trusting Luffy. First thing I thought of was the road Oh, I see. You're saying in terms of giving him the road poneglyph or not? Yeah, the tricky thing is I don't know if Gaban would be the man marked by flames, because I don't know if he can create whirlpools or anything like that. That's a big part. He doesn't sail around the ocean. So I think there's some things that kind of probably make him seem like a red herring to me. But in terms of trusting Luffy, I think it's more so just like, oh yeah, be friendly with this guy or whatever. Like, oh, like I don't know if it's about giving him something or not necessarily, but I think just in terms of how should you approach Luffy or whatever, right? Because to be fair, Shanks hasn't talked to or met Luffy in years, you know? So just giving that recommendation to Gaban, or like telling Gaban like, oh yeah, he's a good guy when it's like a Yonko of the Sea approaching. I don't know if Gaban should just trust him right off the bat. So maybe it's referring to the road poneglyph. Maybe it's just like in general, should you trust Luffy? Continuing on. Marcel Beans, thanks for the 2. The Abyss was also mentioned in the Harley, right? I don't know if it's that same Abyss, though. I don't know if it's the same Abyss. Milk, thanks. The tricky thing with not knowing Japanese is I just don't know if some terminology is the same or not. So I think we'd need to look at like a Sandman interpretation or maybe like an Arthur interpretation. Milk, thanks for the 5. Morj, good evening. Have you guys spoken about the possibility of the Blackbeard being a Desundada because of his special bloodline? Desundada, I feel like I've not thought about that because I really don't know. We don't know enough about what those are, but I figured Buccaneers might be more likely just because it's been implied that Buccaneers are like there's something different with Kuma and the way that his mind and soul work as well. So I figured that it might be more along those lines. Myriad, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 15 months. Hey Morj, I hope everything's good. Do you have any idea for the future of Brook? In this arc? No. In general, I do worry that Brook could just exist for the Laboon plotline. I think that we are so far into the story, there's yet to be a single, like, character-focused storyline for Brook. Like, Whole Cake was the first arc that Brook got shit to do that mattered. First arc that he got shit to do. Now, in terms of, like, an actual, like, character-focused storyline for Brook, we haven't gotten that ever since Thriller Bark. And I'm beginning to feel, we haven't even gotten a real fight for him. I'm beginning to feel like that might not happen until I think it might not happen until just Reverse Mount, like when they're back at Reverse Mountain. So that's my fear for Brook. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 250 real quick. In this Elbaf arc, if Brook is to get something, maybe it's something related to the Underworld, right? Because Brook is also tied to the concept of the Underworld himself. And the Underworld in One Piece is always portrayed as very cold. So it could be right up Brook's alley. I think that'd be cool. ZamDL, thanks for the 10. In chapter 202, page 7, there is carving of the fire servant and slaves with halos on the wall of the Tomb of Kings. Okay, hold on. That's some juicy stuff you're dropping right there. Hold on. Chapter 202. This would be Alabasta, right? This is Alabasta. This is in the crypt of Alabasta. Let's see. Interesting stuff you're dropping right there. 202, page 7. There's some shit. There is a serpent on the wall. A lot of this just seems like Egyptian themed, though. Like, you see Egyptian-type gods and stuff on the walls as well. The serpent's not Egyptian as far as I know. Let's see the rest of your comment. There's a carving of the fire servant and slaves with halos on the wall. Is it halos? I don't know if you can make out for sure that it's halos or not. I'm looking at the colored version. But the serpent is interesting. I think the serpent is interesting because I don't think that fits into Egyptian mythology. There is other stuff on the wall that is classic Egyptian mythology, though. Tala says, I'll tag you on Twitter right now in the Romeo concept post. Romeo concept post. Okay, I can take a look at that. Thanks, Tala. Let's see. Did you tag me yet? I don't think I saw anything. Oh, see it now. I see it now. Romeo. Let's see. Oh, I see. Early prototypes what Zoro would become Ryuma and Sanji Romeo. Interesting. I don't know. Yeah, 2 great swordsmen. So were these part of monsters? Interesting. Because Sanji does become a knight. I guess Oda... Here, I'll screen share quickly what I'm looking at here for y'all. Let me screen share this quick. Give me a second here. Yeah, so... Looking at this... Early prototypes of what would become Zoro and Sanji. And yeah, Sanji is essentially a knight figure later on. Great swordsman. I think this was just to differentiate them a little bit. Fight each other even in the worst circumstances. I think this was just to differentiate them a little bit. So Oda was like, let's make Sanji something totally different, not a swordsman. And he went with, Sanji just uses feet and all of that stuff. So I think that's a good idea. I don't know if that, I think even the concept of Ryuma got switched to Zoro as well. So it was just the basic concepts, and then Oda decided to differentiate a little bit. So, but that's a really cool thing you pointed out. Thank you. Continuing on. Nerve MV Maker, thanks to the 5. If Shamrock is not going down this arc, do you think we could see him fight Mihawk? I think if Shamrock is not going down this arc, I think it's more likely that he will be a... I think it's more likely that he will be a Shanks opponent than Mihawk. I have a very interesting thought on who I think Mihawk's... I think Mihawk's going to get... I think Mihawk could get... I personally think that we will see a... How do I explain this? Okay. My personal bet right now, from the way everything is shaping out, and I have a really big video that I want to do down the line that kind of covers this more in depth, but my personal bet right now is that I think in this arc, I think before the final war actually kicks off, I think we are generally not going to see characters, significantly strong fighters, taken out of the story for good. I think it's going to be a lot of skirmishes and showcases and getting an idea of how strong characters are. And then the final war will be everyone getting their actual big matchups, okay? And this applies to side characters as well. So for example, like even over the course of Egghead, it showcased so many different fights, right? Like Blackbeard Law, like all the Hachinosu shit, Aokiji, Garp, there was the Amazon Lily raid, right? There was revolutionaries versus admirals, right? There's so much stuff happening, and obviously Strats versus Gorosei, Luffy versus Kizaru. At the end of all of that, nobody was actually defeated permanently. Everybody's still in the game. The only character that was actually removed was Gorosei Saturn, and that's because, as it turns out, like he's being replaced with a stronger Gorosei, right? So in general, all of that was just kind of showcasing stuff. I imagine that trend will continue with Elbaf. We'll get an idea of how strong Shamrock and the Gods Knights are. Some Gods Knights might be defeated, but in general, I don't think they'll all be defeated. We'll get an idea of, like, we'll get to see some more stuff for Shanks. And I think that on top of that, I think that this is going to be the arc that we get to see Crossguild do some shit. I think that Mihawk will get a showcase of his strength this arc, potentially against some Admiral or Admirals or something like that, because Crossguild versus Marines has been built up for some while. But I don't think that'll be Mihawk's final match, like final big win for the story. I think that this will be like, I think he'll get a solid showcase. Like Crossguild will get to do some shit. But I think that he will have like a big win in the final war against a certain character before then losing to Zoro, because we all know that he's got to lose to Zoro at the end. But I kind of want to save what I think that will be down the line, because it makes sense once you understand how I view a lot of the final matchups playing out at this point in time. I'll leave that for the moment. Shonen Academia, thanks a lot. Alternate Destroyer Nika form for series times. I hope that doesn't happen, because I think here's my wish. I think that there shouldn't... I think I want Luffy to be himself all the time. I think I don't want him to turn into some like rage mode or whatever. I think what might be cool is just getting to see him still use the Nika fruit the way that he uses it, but just with some of that old emotion still coming through, you know? With some of that old emotion still coming through. I don't think he needs to go into some like evil Nika form or something like that. Enter a name, thanks for the 10. Has Shanks' arm theory been brought up? If the Celestial Dragon summoning needs a tattoo, I'd wager it's in the arm Shanks gave up. I've never heard of that. It's in the arm Shanks gave up? You think that Shanks... I don't think that every Celestial Dragon is marked. That's an interesting concept, though. I don't think that every Celestial Dragon is marked. Also, let's get the stream likes to 250, because we're almost there. King J, thanks a lot. I think God's Knights will take a lead now, capture some kids, and this will all conclude with Loki saving the kids after Luffy enchains him. Loki's power is hyped up so much more than the hype God's Knights have now. I love that theory, King J. I think that's my favorite little thing. Not my favorite little... I think maybe for next chapter or next couple chapters, that's a phenomenal, really fun idea. I really, really, really like that, because then you get to hype up the God's Knights in a way, and then you get to immediately hype up Loki in a way. And having Loki storm through and like defend the Giants of Elbaf, I think that's a really good way to introduce him, because he's like introduces strength, because he's not actually a bad guy at the end of the day, you know? I love that idea. I think that's a phenomenal idea. Akash Panda, thanks for the 2. Theory, Luffy loses Gear 5 versus Akainu due to lack of joy. He loses in Gear 5, or he loses the ability to go Gear 5. I think that could be a cool idea. I like that idea a lot, actually. Due to a lack of joy. That's interesting. The thing is that Luffy has been able to go Gear 5 when angry so far, though. Like, that has... I don't think he's ever been able to launch it while angry. Like, get it started. He's been able to get angry in Gear 5, but I don't think he's been able to kickstart it out of anger. So I think we'll have to wait and see, but that's a cool idea. Kid Smitty94, thanks for the 5. Shamrock might need to use the same circle to leave back in the castle. The Gorosei had assigned circles, not giving up on Luffy versus Shamrock yet. Oh, Kid Smitty, what a phenomenal point. I like that a lot. And that's a scenario where we can kind of assume that Shamrock will get the better of them, at least initially, because he's going to succeed in going back in the circle, right? Assigned circles does make a lot of sense. Yeah, I think that could be correct. New X7, thanks for the 5. Gunko has no Celestial Dragon family name, and when beating Loki, spoke on how everyone wants to join Celestial Dragons. Sold Ginny to Shamrock, Bonnie's dad, to become one. What if we get Bonnie versus Gunko? That's a really cool idea. Bonnie versus Gunko is a phenomenal matchup possibility. Guys, think about this. Bonnie versus Gunko, all right? Phenomenal matchup possibility because of the contrast in their powers, right? Bonnie's power is basically... Gunko's power is basically like she can set attacks that set a certain direction for her future, right? Bonnie's ability is the exact opposite in that it's... she can transform into any of the infinite future possibilities that she imagines. I love that possibility. Great point. Ursaliat, what's up, man? Thanks for the 5. If Loki tries attacking the Gods Knights for revenge, it'll either make it look like he's saving the children, or it'll shift the blame onto him. I hope it doesn't shift the blame on... I can't imagine how it'll shift the blame onto him, but I also think that Loki won't have his name cleared possibly till the end of the arc. I think it'll be some time before Loki has his name cleared, so I think that's a good point. King J, thanks a lot. Romulus and Remus, twins in Roman mythology, was found under a fig tree. That's Oda inspiring for Figarland twins. Oh, I never knew about that. That's cool. In mythology, one ends up killing the other. Shanks versus Shamrock theory is strong. I gotta read about that shit. Hold on. Romulus and Remus, fig tree. That's cool. That's a cool... Oh, damn. I did not know about that shit. I did not know about that. To be fair, I'm Googling... Oh, the twins were under a fig tree. I like that shit. That's cool. Interesting. Thanks a lot. That's a really good idea. Or a really good point. Gunner455, thanks a lot for being a Yonko tier member for 21 months. Morj, did you see the new volume cover? Thoughts on Loki's colors? Wondering if Blackbeard fits into the mural, if at all. Love the Gods Knights designs too. So let me see the new volume cover. One Piece new volume. I did see it on Twitter. I didn't get a good look at it. News volume. Loki was blonde, if I recall correctly, right? What volume are we on? Let's see. Let me check this out. Volume cover. Let's see. The fuck? Where's the newest? Oh no, Loki's pink? Loki's hair is pink? I was not expecting that. Okay, never mind. Loki's hair is pink. All right, we'll have to tell thumbnail artist to keep that in mind. All right, good shit. Sometimes I don't know. I think... Okay, how to explain this? I know Oda likes his zany colors and everything like that. I think sometimes he doesn't need to do a really out-of-the-box color for the sake of doing an out-of-the-box color. I think sometimes the traditional colors are cooler, you know? Like, I think blonde would be fine for Loki. I think Blackbeard does fit into the mural, probably. I just don't know where yet. Genuinely speaking, I don't know where yet. He could be that big devil on the left, but Emu could also represent the devil on the left. At the same time, there's the giant snake on the right, and I think Emu could represent that too, in which case maybe Blackbeard is the devil on the left, so it's hard to say. The snake will eat him, and it's... Oh, wait, whoops. Missed that. Love the Gods Knight designs too. Yeah, I think the Gods Knight designs are pretty cool so far. Wolf Visuals, thanks for the 5. Luffy will defeat the Red Lion when it turns into a snake by beating it from the inside. The snake will eat him, and it's a reference to an Egypt story. Oh, I've never heard of that. Luffy being inside a giant snake happened in fucking Skypiea, so I'm not saying that's out of the picture. That's interesting. Breezy2X, thanks for the 2. Can you fight? I'm starting boxing lessons for real this time in the next 2 weeks, so ask me. Ask me then. Ask me then. Shaquan, thanks for the 5. What do you think the 6-month break will do to the pacing of the anime? I think it'll fix it. I think it'll make it so much better. I think it'll finally catch One Piece up to like a modern fucking anime quality in that you're not watching every episode, having to fast forward through a million bits. And by the way, I have more rants on the anime now because for whatever reason, I had an urge in the last 2 months to watch One Piece episodes that I hadn't seen. Like, because I knew the animation for the Wano arc was so good for fights. So I actually sat down and watched a lot of the One Piece fight episodes. I went and watched all of Zoro versus King, all of Sanji versus Queen. Not the beginning bits, but the good bits of Sanji versus Queen, Robin versus Black Maria, Nami and Ulti versus Page 1. I was able to skip through episodes to get to those. I still had Frankie versus Sasaki on my list. But anyway, I have a lot of thoughts. Because a lot of people, like, the criticism of me in the past was just like, oh, you can't shit on the anime because you don't even watch it. I have watched it. And I was so absurdly correct. I'm pissed off that I enjoyed watching the episodes, by the way, but keep in mind, those are the best of the best episodes, and they still had the very same issues that I complained about, which is the pacing is abysmal. There was no reason I should be watching Zoro versus King, which is supposedly a 10 out of 10 episode, 11 out of 10, best in One Piece history, and I'm still having to fast forward. Like, there's a solid like, if you were to say how much of that episode should have been cut, or was recap, or needs to be skipped through, or is dragged out, or, like, I was correct in saying that there's really only a few minutes, like probably 5-6 minutes total of that episode of actually good fluid animation, and those sections are phenomenal, top tier. But as a whole, that episode is still, even that one is a drag to get through a lot of it. And that's supposedly the best episode in the One Piece Wano anime. So we do have a guest now, so we're going to let Justin Holland in, and we're going to talk for 10 minutes, and then after that, I will probably stream for another 10-15 minutes, and then we will wrap up. So let me let Justin Holland in. So yeah, I do think that we need the One Piece anime to go seasonal. I think we just do. It's the way things have to be. I was just pissed because I was just like, I mean, I did enjoy the fight. I did think it was, but like, how to explain this? I watched like Sanji versus Queen, right? And the part that was really beautiful and fluid was Sanji's final combo on Queen. But it's frustrating because even in that combo, it's like weird. There's like, Sanji does this beautiful combo, but Toei needs to pad the time. It needs to pad the time, so it has him do the combo, and then it has this awkward, abrupt, like, stop, and like a pause, and then like some dialogue, and then like more talking and stuff, and Queen saying some weird generic filler dialogue, and then Sanji runs forward and does a final kick. Instead of just doing the combo and concluding with a big kick, it's not just because that felt better in the manga. It felt even if I'd never read the manga, within the flow of the anime, it felt like that was the buildup. It was like fluid combo, everything's flowing so beautifully, etc., leading up to something big, and then even then it has to pause, give a bunch of time, some talking, just like cut all the momentum, and then have Sanji finish it off with a separate kick, because that adds more time. And that whole section, which was the best section of the episode, the rest of the episode wasn't that good. It's really just like these 2-minute bits of like Sakuga that are getting like hyped up. Wait, Justin, where'd you go? Hello? Oh, shit. Justin, if you're watching stream... Okay, you're back. All right, here we go. All right, Justin's going to hop in for 10 minutes. Let me screen share real quick.
Hello?
Hey, Justin, what's going on, man? How'd you enjoy the latest chapter?
Pretty good. I mean, first off, I was listening to like the what was that other guys about? I think he was a Scott Gavon fan. What was his name?
Vix.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a lot of what he said was. I think we talked about a while back about if free will be play a part of the story, right?
Yeah. It's a huge part of the story. I definitely agree.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I get away. It was kind of nice that someone else speaks up too, but more on point. I feel like this chapter, Gamal was just te this felt more a test more than anything. Like it's like he just wanted to see if the rumors are true about him being what Luffy being. It's like he wasn't really going to fight Luffy at all. Just test him. Heck, Luffy wasn't even trying to go fight Tully. What's to get serious? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think like it was Luffy didn't get serious till towards the end of it. But to be fair, like I don't think that made Gabon look bad because Gabon still pushed him to get serious, and Gabon had Luffy and Zoro like on edge over the course of that. Like they started to realize, wait, this guy's like actually a big problem. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
How do you feel about
Yeah.
Gabon so far?
So he's living out to the number three. He's living out to be a king of pot. He's living out to be a member of the king of pot college crew. That's for sure.
Yeah. No, definitely. I don't know. I'm very hyped to see the God Valley flashback now because now we know that like we're gonna get to see Roger, Rayleigh, and Gabon all in action then in their prime. So we'll get a good idea of that. And some people talked about too about how we might be getting to see Bonnie de-age Gabon back to his prime for this arc. So we might get to see him in action like in his prime right now, which I think would be one of the coolest things that Oda could give us at this point in the story.
But, I mean, heck, I keep thinking that it will. I keep feeling that won't be the only time they'll see. Despite saying they don't want to see you again, I get the feeling like they might. With the way things might unfold and Elbaf, they might not have much of a choice.
Oh, with the Gods Knights all coming? The thing is that the Straw Hats are all there. So, like, it's a full Yonko crew. So, if the Yonko crew can't hold off the Gods Knights, I wonder. Like, I feel like the Straw Hats alone should be enough to be like, able to hold their own against the Gods Knights and protect Elbaf from them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like I say, he won't be a get out jump free card. And yes, yeah, they should. I mean, we're still gauging the gods. We're still kind of gauging the gods at this point, though. So, I mean, I mean, how many gods do you think there are anyway?
I think that there's probably 9 because we saw 9 silhouettes. But at the same time, Oda might not have shown us the exact amount of God's Knights. Like, it could have just been him, showing a general gist of it. I imagine. So, like, if you look at Yonko crews, we kind of have like, Kaido. We kind of often have this setup of, like, you got the boss, and then you got 3 underneath them, and then, like, 6 more beneath them, right? So that's kind of the case with, like, Kaido's crew with Kaido, then 3 Calamities, and then 6 Toby Roppo. And then in Big Mom's crew, you have Big Mom, 3 Sweet Commanders, and then you've got 6 others who are kind of explicitly explained to be a step above the others. So you had Snack, Perisperu, Daifuku, Oven, Kampote, and then Strusin. So like you got another 6 that are like particularly special even among the crew. Shanks' crew I think is similar. It's like if the lineup we saw at Enies Lobby was, or not Enies Lobby, Marineford was Shanks and then 9 others. And then with Blackbeard's crew, you've got Blackbeard and 10 captains, but we know that Aokiji is really probably not going to be on Blackbeard's side at the end of the day, so you've really got Blackbeard and like 9. So I think Oda likes the idea of like a leader and then 9 subordinates. I wouldn't be surprised if the Gods Knights are something similar.
Yeah, that's what makes you. I yeah. 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 Uh, I'm sorry. Sorry, drawing blanks right now.
No,
So,
it's all good, man.
uh,
How do you feel about the Gods Knights that showed up? Which one are you most excited for?
honestly, I'm still honestly. I mean, be honest, we always skip this before, so I haven't really gone around to read it fully. But some other interesting. I mean, you think all the god ought to be a little bit more impressed, not snobbish, and
They're kind of funny. They're kind of a funny duo. I mean, like, Shamrock and Gunko are pretty serious, but, like, the two new ones, Sommers and the Kirin that showed up, they're both pretty funny to me. And some
Yeah.
people were even talking on stream that, like, Kirin could turn out to be a good character. We don't know yet, but he could turn out to be a good guy.
I mean, okay. So, well, I mean, yeah. So I'll say, I'm thinking, look, Gavon won't be a good Frico, and yes, I definitely think that the Sox can hold their own. But I mean, no, no, we'll have to wait and see what happens. To be honest, I though I'm on a, uh, I don't know. I mean, he seemed like he could show out to show maybe show you pointers about certain hockey techniques. I haven't looked me or know how to figure out yet. So
Yeah, I don't know. I think that maybe there's hockey techniques. So some people are predicting that we get like some showcases of observation hockey that we haven't yet seen from Gabon. I don't think we quite saw that, but we did see that like he is able to avoid Luffy pretty well. I don't think Luffy was using Future Sight or anything like that. I imagine if Luffy was using Future Sight, he'd be fine. But it did seem like Gabon has really good, at least speed or really good observation hockey to be avoiding Luffy's grabs early on. So I don't know if new hockey necessarily, because I feel like the biggest step for Luffy to learn is like a new type of advanced conquerors hockey. I don't know if Gabon necessarily has that. I kind of don't want Luffy to get trained anymore. I think that's the point in the story that I'm at. I think I just want him to see unlock new things just through combat, like he always used to in the past. So my hope is he doesn't need any more training. My hope is he's just like at as trained up as he needs to be, and now everything else is just him progressing through his own fights. You know, that's my personal preference.
I mean, yeah. I mean, anyway, I mean, I can see that. I mean, doesn't mean he. It doesn't mean Kavak can give a sort of hint. I mean, may not trade like give like an advice or two,
Yeah,
a small a hit.
yeah, I think that's possible. I do think that's possible. Justin, you got any final thoughts you want to get off?
Well, honestly, no. Thank you for having me.
Oh, of course, man. Always appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed the posters, the new batch of them that just came out. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, man. And thanks as usual for coming through, and thank you for the long time support, man. I really, really, really do appreciate it. Hope
Thank you.
have a great weekend, man. And yeah, we'll
You
talk
too.
to you later. Peace.
Bye bye.
All right, everybody. So we are going to stream a little bit longer. Let me catch up on these remaining supers. Everybody, W's for Justin, as usual, longtime supporter. As always, W's for him for coming on and just speaking his thoughts to everybody. Let me catch up through these real quick. Gold Burrito, thanks for the 2. Thoughts on Kong being stronger than Akainu? I don't think Kong is stronger than Akainu now. I think Akainu is the strongest Marine in existence at this point in time. Maybe in his prime, Kong was stronger than Akainu. I don't like. To me, there's two ways that I look at it. I feel like if Akainu is the same level of strength that he was pre-time skip, then he's just as strong as Aokiji. He's identical to Aokiji. He's basically an Aokiji clone. It's basically like saying is Kong stronger than Aokiji, because the difference between Akainu and Aokiji is like 0.00001%, right? But if Akainu has developed Conqueror's Haki and Advanced Conqueror's Haki in order to play out a role as one of Luffy's final opponents, then I would imagine Akainu is currently stronger than Kong ever was. If Akainu is exactly as strong as he was pre-time skip, then I feel like Prime Kong might have been stronger than Akainu is. I don't know. Shonen Academia, thanks a lot. No rage, but by controlling Gear 5, Luffy can use the powers for what he wants, just like there are many interpretations of Nika himself. Maybe. I don't know about the rage stuff. It's not about the rage. Like, it's not like he needs to be Dragon Ball Z yelling and stuff like that, but I just enjoy the version of Luffy that we had in like Luffy versus Crocodile Round 3, Luffy versus Lucci, Luffy versus Katakuri, Luffy versus Doflamingo. I enjoy the version of Luffy that became the defining sort of like dramatic draw to me, of One Piece's most climactic fights. Like, it was really Luffy's emotion and intensity that really, really makes those fights so memorable for me, personally. Carnage, thanks for the 5. Gaban does sail as he was drinking with Crocus. Also, I think the whirlpool could have something to do with the egg on Oro Jackson. Oh, that's an interesting point. And you're right, Gaban does sail. He has sailed in the past. So that is an interesting idea. So maybe Gaban could be the man marked by flames. King J, thanks a lot. I like the Bonnie versus Gunko theory you just mentioned. Unchangeable permanent future versus alternate multiple futures. Bonnie's are perfect counter. Yeah, I'm kind of leaning towards that just happening at this point. I think that's very, very likely. Wolf Visuals, thanks for the 2. Google Snake Eats the Sun. Read the AI script. Okay. Snake eats the sun. That's an interesting idea. The idea of a snake eating the sun appears in ancient Egyptian, Mayan, and Chinese folklore. Interesting. That's so fucking cool then. In fucking Skypiea, Luffy got eaten by... He spent half the arc being eaten by that snake. That's really, really interesting. So maybe Emu really is the fucking snake. Okay. I think I'm set on that. I think that just makes a lot of sense. Wolf Visuals, thanks for pointing that out. I'll write you down. All right. That is a phenomenal point. Akash Panda, thanks for the 2. Did you check 1140 predictions? Lots of correct ones. I did. I don't know them all off the top of my head. But let's see. Hold on one second. 1140. Hold on. I should actually just, before I forget, give people their mod status before we get too far. Hold on. Okay, so from 1140, our correct predictions were Luffy starts fight against Gaban in Gear 5th. That's not correct. Yeah, King J was correct. King J was correct. King J guessed that Gaban gets the upper hand on Luffy in forms besides Gear 5th. It's also possible Luffy struggles to land a hit. That's pretty much exactly what happened. Dare Boppler was almost correct. Gaban almost uses the key like a giant axe. I don't think that would be quite right to say. He just uses it as like a club more than anything. Zoro in Gear 5, Luffy double page spread. I wouldn't say it was a double page spread, so Booty Pirate was almost right. Gaban is kidding, doesn't want to fight Luffy. Jensen Peters was correct. Third God's Knight is a sword. King J got 2. Holy shit. Oh, that King J, I think that was already a... King J, I think King J is already a... Where's King J at? I think King J, are you already a moderator? No. All right, King J, congratulations. You are now a moderator because you are the first person to get 2 predictions correct, I think, that we've had so far. Everybody shouts to King J for getting 2 predictions correct for 1140. Third Holy Knight that shows up is a member of pre-established family. Joey, Cherinet, you are correct. That is a really, really good call. Luffy and Gaban's fight destroys the castle, so Booty Pirate is correct. Gaban saved Kid. Yeah, we got a lot of correct ones. Okay, so let me give it to Booty Pirate. King J, we already got you. And the last one was... We got Booty Pirate. We got... is Booty Pirate in stream? If Booty Pirate's in stream, then just speak up real quick. Is it just Booty Pirate and King J? I thought we got one more. Oh, Jensen Peters. Is Booty Pirate and Jensen Peters in stream? Booty Pirate and Jensen Peters. Speak up if you're in stream. If either of them show up, just let them know that they've got a mod status incoming. Continuing on. JP, thanks for the 5. So did Katarina Devon copy the Mark II and can enter the Abyss? I think we need to know a little bit more about how the Mark works. I think we need to know a little bit more. I previously thought that Katarina Devon gaining that ability would be gaining the ability to turn into Saturn would be most important for controlling Pacifista and potentially Seraphim. But now I don't know if that's the case. Entering the Abyss could be really big. Akash Panda, thanks for the 5. If Shamrock leaves, Luffy can't clear Shanks' name with the Giants. Loki's the only other guy who knows the truth, but no one will believe him except Luffy. That's true. That's a really good point. I don't think Shanks' name needs to be cleared at the moment, but it might need to be cleared in a second, depending on what happens at the village. Bane, thanks for the 2. I feel like Garling is Luffy's Elbaf boss fight. I don't think so. I feel like I don't think Garling would be introduced as a villain just so... I think Garling would not be the first of these next batch of Gorosei to go down. I feel like Garling is saved for somebody else, like a dragon, or maybe a Shanks, or probably a dragon. Akash Panda, thanks for the 2. The world government is now ever-looming threat thanks to Abyss. Yeah, they can show up anywhere and at any time. I agree. Kornick, thanks for the 5. Hey, Morji, any thoughts on Kaido's attack, Conqueror of the Three Worlds? Ragnaroku after recent chapters. Maybe the same event is reoccurring. Thanks for your first super ever. So there's been discussion about that attack. It's kind of like, did Kaido know something, and that's why he has an attack named that? Or is it just Oda referencing something? Does that make sense? Like, when, sometimes Oda just has characters have moves that are named after something that maybe, like when Luffy's saying Dawn Gatling or whatever, that's not Luffy thinking, I'm the guy that brings the dawn or anything like that, right? It's just Oda's little way of foreshadowing the future of the story, right? Especially Luffy's role. That applies to a lot of attacks. I could think of more if I actually sat down and looked at a lot of attacks, but I don't think necessarily just because something is named, like Kaido's move is named Conqueror of Three Worlds, Ragnarok, I don't think that necessarily means that Kaido knew about this stuff, but it could be Oda teasing the idea of three worlds and basically all of it ending in Ragnarok, the final war, and that's the way that things are going to go down soon. He's here. All right, hold on. Where's Booty Pirate at? Thank you, Akash Panda. Thank you, as usual, for keeping everything together. I really, 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 really do appreciate it, man. Where is Booty Pirate? Booty Pirate, say something. Say something, Booty Pirate. I don't think he's saying anything. I don't see any comments from him. I'm scrolling, man. I don't see anything. I don't see anything from Booty Pirate. All right, let's see if he shows up in the next few minutes. He's not commenting. He's not commenting. I think I know I have a way to... Yeah, let me see. I know I can search. I know I have a way to search somehow. Fuck, I fucking wish I could. Hold on. Let's see. I thought I have a way to fucking search, but I can't see exactly. Hey, Harley, Casey, quiet. No. All right, if Booty Pirate comments. Hey, Harley, quiet. Harley. Sorry, guys. Dogs are getting antsy. All right, we're gonna stream a few more minutes, and then we're gonna have to call stream here. David Kasparov, thanks for the 5. Morj, have you seen the theory where Shanks intentionally let his arm get cut off because celestial dragons have a mark of Emu? See Sommer's elbow this chapter. So I think that's an interesting idea, but if that was like, here's the reality of it, right? I think it's outright stated that Shanks lost his arm. Like I think Oda's outright stated in interviews or whatever. Shanks lost his arm in chapter 1 because editors told him that he needed to spice up the story. That's pretty much the long and short of it. That's why it happened, right? If it was intentional to get rid of the mark, then that's a retcon. And on top of that, he didn't need to lose his arm for that through Sea King, because if he always wanted to lose the mark of Emu, he could have just cut his arm off. Like Harold took his horns off, right? It's not like, oh boy, an opportunity to cut my arm to lose my arm because of the Sea King. It's like, you always have that opportunity 24/7. You can always cut your arm off. It's not like it's you know what I mean? Like it's not like he couldn't find some way to cut his arm off, right? So I think that would be it's like that would be objectively like there's lots of things in One Piece we'll never know if it's like Oda retroactively coming up with an idea or not, but that's something where we would know for a fact that it's Oda coming up with an idea after the fact if that's revealed to be a thing. It's like, oh, Shanks actually lost his arm to get rid of the Mark of the Celestial Dragons. It's like, no, Oda said that he did it because the editors said the first chapter was too boring. So that's why it happened, right? And yeah, again, just logically, it's like he can just always cut his arm off. That was always a thing that he could do. King J, thanks a lot. Databook or Vivre card hinted that Kaido just had King with him when they were flying to Marineford. I don't think Shanks and 9 officers will fight 2 people. Could it have been Shamrock and Gunko? The thing is that the Vivre cards, I believe, also specifically state in Kaido's own Vivre cards that they were stopped by the red-haired pirates, right? So it's like if you believe the Vivre cards, then you also have to believe what the Vivre cards are saying, which is that they were stopped by the red-haired pirates, not Shamrock and Gunko. I also don't know, like, will Shamrock and 9 officers fight 2 people? The thing is, I've read the Vivre cards people are referencing. I don't think the Vivre cards hinted that it's just Kaido and King that headed to Marineford. They were headed to Whitebeard, right? So that's number 1. And lots of times, just because information is, I think people came to the conclusion that it was just Kaido and King because it's only mentioned in Kaido and King's Vivre cards that they went. So it's not mentioned in Queen's Vivre card or like Jack's Vivre card. But at the same time, lots of times Vivre cards don't have information, but that doesn't mean that they didn't happen for certain characters. Like Ace's Vivre card didn't say that he has armament hockey, but he did fucking have armament hockey. Like there's lots of events that are left out for whatever reason or the other. Queen has a more fleshed out history, so it's possible that just timeline wise there were a lot more events to add into Queen's history rather than King's, so therefore King had the additional point added that he went with Kaido to attack Whitebeard during the Marineford War, whereas Queen already has a lot of stuff with the Mad stuff littering his timeline, so the Vivre card didn't mention that. There's a lot of reasons, but if we take the Vivre cards as canon, it is canonical that the red-haired pirates were the ones that stopped Kaido and King. You know? All right, everybody. Son of Morj says, that's a nice poster behind you. If you're interested in that poster, you can get it. Hey, Harley, Casey, stop. Enough. You can get that poster yourself following this link. I love that I can just do the chat command now. You can get any of the... Hey, what the hell? What is going on? Sorry, it's their time to go out, so they're getting antsy. There's literally... yeah, you can get all of these posters for yourselves. You can get all of these posters for yourselves at the Morj store. And if you want to get all 4 of the February posters, which is Amazon Lily, Drum Kingdom, Dressrosa, and Kamabaka Kingdom, you can get all 4 of them together at 50% off. So just head to the Morj store if you are interested in that. And then lastly, this will be my last one for today. Bane, thanks for the 5. I think Emu will nuke Elbaf instead of sinking small islands to raise sea levels by 1 meter. This may trigger disaster, raising seas by 5 meters, like Dofi said. That's an interesting idea, but I do also feel like Elbaf is kind of being set up as like being a haven that people travel to for this whole scenario. So I don't know if Emun's going to start nuking until, like they're trying to do certain things, right? Like the God's Knights are trying to set certain things into play. Like they want the Giants of Elbaf on their side. I think they're going to do certain things first before they start doing all of the nuking. So their business at Elbaf isn't done yet. So I think that if there's any nuke attempt, it won't be at least till the end of the Elbaf arc. I think they'll be prepared for that by then. All right, everybody. We are going to call stream here. Thanks, everybody, for coming through. I really appreciate it. We had some great callers today. And yeah, if you're interested in the posters, just hit the link above. If you ever want to call in on stream, there is a bundle that you can get with the posters where you can also call into a stream. And yeah, thanks everybody for coming through. This was a really fun chapter.